I've been told many times to try the Dust mod for Fallout New Vegas. I finally got around to checking it out recently, and I should have jumped in a long time ago. What the Dust mod offers is an excellent experience for people who have played through Fallout New Vegas too many times to count and want a more challenging task set after the events of the vanilla game. This video will contain some spoilers for the Dust mod as we cover its lore and setting, but with that in mind, let's dive straight into one of the most extensive mods available for Fallout New Vegas, Dust Survival Simulator. While I'll admit I'm a bit late in covering this mod, Dust having been released back in 2015, I've been asked by many people for my take on the survival mod for Fallout New Vegas. I have only recently been able to fully explore mods due to getting a competent PC about a year ago, and this is one of the main reasons I'm behind when it comes to mods such as Dust. What ultimately led me to make this video is how much I enjoyed the mod overall, and wanting to share that with you and anyone else who may not have had a chance to experience Dust for themselves. Right off the bat, Dust prides itself on being rugged and desolate. While you can decrease how hard it is with a few tweaks like a fast travel mod, turning off hardcore mode, or just lowering the difficulty altogether, even when doing these things, Dust can be pretty challenging and should be looked at as an experienced New Vegas player's choice. If you are new to the games or Fallout New Vegas, you could for sure play this and find fun, but without the expertise, you will find yourself meeting a more significant challenge as Dust assumes you know the ins and outs of the game. The Dust Survival mod impresses me the most when it comes to its setting. The mod takes place 20 years after the events of Fallout New Vegas and focuses heavily on lore and story, the description boasting a complete overhaul of the vanilla game to better represent an apocalyptic survival horror game. In Dust, there aren't a bunch of quests, and you can't join any faction. The only quest given is to escape the Mojave and survive the horrors until you do. The player is not the main character, and the story is theirs to create. You can learn more about the lore and setting of Dust by finding notes and staying alert out in the Mojave, and all main NPCs are now dead or changed entirely, and almost everyone you encounter will be hostile. The Mojave has changed significantly in the 20 years since the Second Battle of Hoover Dam. The Courier would aid NCR in victory and drive the Legion back across the Colorado River. The celebration for NCR wouldn't last long, as the Courier would betray them by order of Mr. House or Yes Man and banish the NCR from the Strip. This led the NCR to annex the Strip by force and brand the Courier as a terrorist. These events would snowball into increasing unrest in Freeside and Outer Vegas, leading to a full-blown rebellion. After some time, the NCR would discover the Sierra Madre Casino and the poisonous cloud surrounding the site. The group would bring large amounts of samples of the cloud residue and the corpses of the ghost people found around the casino back to the Mojave, eventually setting up a makeshift lab in the Lucky 38 and partaking in inhumane and brutal experiments. These tests came to a screeching halt when reports of a massive sandstorm coming towards the Mojave were confirmed by the NCR. Rather than warning the public of this immense danger, they opted to form an evacuation plan. Years later, an angry Vault 21 janitor would sabotage this laboratory. This would release an even more deadly cloud variant onto the Strip, completely covering it in the corrosive mist, making New Vegas one of the worst hellscapes in the wasteland. Of course, with the cloud seeping into every corner of New Vegas, panic would ensue. Mass riots would break out as the NCR began to execute civilians in the streets. This would come to a boiling point when the Kings rebelled against the NCR, aiding the evacuation of Freeside. The followers of the apocalypse would abandon the old Mormon fort, and the NCR would lock the gates of New Vegas, leaving any citizens inside. These civilians would use the sewers to escape the city. Still, the NCR would dump radioactive waste into the underground tunnels, killing any who remained. New Vegas fell to the cloud and the dust storms. People took shelter in the abandoned casinos that stood as past relics, but most were not so lucky, becoming shells of themselves as ghost people or cloud victims, and everyone else dying slowly of radiation sickness. While New Vegas crumbled, an enormous radioactive dust storm engulfed the Mojave, forcing mass evacuations and destroying most settlements. Some towns like Good Springs would succumb to a form of plague, turning them into ghost towns. Places like Boulder City would see people trying to protect themselves by using the same suits worn by the ghost people of the Sierra Madre. This would ultimately lead to them being trapped. Places as far out as Zion have felt the effects of the Fall, as it's called in Dust lore, with spore carriers and other monstrosities roaming the once beautiful valley. As Ulysses predicted, the tunnelers from the Divide would invade the Mojave, causing wanton death and destruction wherever they went. Due to the overwhelming sandstorms blotting out the sun, the creatures would be able to hunt during daytime hours, decimating the animal population of the Mojave. This plunged the Mojave into a bitter wasteland, most major factions turning into nothing more than squabbling tribes. Cannibalism and violence became the norm, and nearly nothing would be recognizable moving forward. As a classic Fallout fan, Dust does not disappoint with its lore and setting. It feels much closer to the original Fallout with its tone and vibe. The backstory was enough to pull me in, and I find myself increasingly more curious about what is left of the Mojave as I play through. I highly recommend this mod for people looking for a challenge with Fallout New Vegas and people looking for an exciting sequel type mod. One that isn't afraid to set you loose in a real apocalypse and see how you do. One that gives you a simple mission: survive and escape. With the help of the suggested mods on the Dust page, this can truly become one of your favorite Fallout experiences. The gameplay is familiar but tweaked enough to feel fresh, and the survival elements are reworked to have more weight and feel more dire. I look forward to trying Frost, another mod by this author that I hear is in the same vein, but for Fallout 4. These types of mods are what really shine in the community, and seeing what other people envision as a future for our favorite game settings can be an enjoyable adventure. So I would have to say with confidence, the Dust survival simulator for Fallout New Vegas is Majestic. Thank you for checking out my video about the Dust mod for Fallout New Vegas, and if you want to see more things like this, you want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more if you haven't already. Liking the video helps out too, because then I know that you like it and I should make more like this. I want to thank my supporters, the patrons, and YouTube channel members, but a big special thanks to my largest supporters: Ian Raleigh, Popo Hum, Adam Souza, Enclave Blurred, Fireflare, JP Rivera, Primark Mustard, Zero Soder, Thomas, Billy Joe Jimbob, Daniel Atalano, Marcus Jacobstown, Legendary Angel 94, Spencer Webb, Techie, Ruben Atwood, Phil Starsick, and Edgy. Thank you guys so much. Couldn't do it without you. I hope to catch you on the next one. It has been Mantis.
I gotta testify. Come up in the spot looking extra fly. For the day you die, you gon' touch the sky. You gon' touch the sky, baby girl. Testify. Come up in the spot looking extra fly. For the day you die.